right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching wherever you are. My name is Caleb Talley. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Startup Junkie. I'm joined by my co-host and Startup Junkie founder, Jeff Amorine.
Hey, everybody.
And today, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Tiny Capital. Tiny Capital knows that selling your business can be a miserable task that involves months of negotiation, legal fees, and the chance of seeing those new owners trash the business you've built. Tiny Capital was founded to become the buyer they wish they could sell to, fair, fast, and founder friendly. If you're looking for a new home for your business, reach out to our friends at Tiny Capital. They'll respond in a day or two, make an offer in a week, and close a straightforward deal in about a month. Get in touch with our friends at Tiny Capital at tinycapital.com/startupjunkies. All right. I am excited to introduce to our guest today, David Meltzer. David is the co-founder of Sports One Marketing and formerly served as CEO of the renowned Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. He is a three-time international best-selling author, a renowned business coach. He's producer of Elevator Pitch, host of the Top Entrepreneur Podcast, right up there with ours, of course, The Playbook, a celebrated humanitarian recognized by Variety Magazine, and so much more. He must have lost a bet because he's with the Startup Junkies here today, and we're so glad to have him. Thank you for joining us, David.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. And how could I not join you? I mean, just think about what you guys do and how you do it. That's right up my alley. And you got to start somewhere. I certainly did not too long ago. And it's great to be on, and hopefully we'll inspire some people and more people to join us.
Awesome. Well, that's what we're here for. And we're so glad that you share our vision, our mission, empowering entrepreneurs. That's what we're all about. You hit the nail on the head. And, apologize for that. So David, tell us how you go from leading a sports and entertainment agency to where you are now. What does that journey look like?
Yeah, I think the journey even before that was even more diverse, that I went to law school and had to go against, my mom's wishes. I always say, just because someone loves you doesn't mean they give you good advice. But I had followed my mom's dream of doctor, lawyer, and failure, graduated top of my class from law school, got a job as an oil and gas litigator, and decided I was going to go work in the internet selling legal research online. And she almost flipped a lid, literally told me the internet was a fad and I was making it huge. So my first entrepreneurial decision to vote for what I wanted, not for what I didn't want or what I was missing in my life or what other people wanted for me, was simply, I knew I could sell ice to Eskimos. I knew the internet was going to be a big deal. And I picked the right company. And sure enough, in 1992, it took me 9 months to make my first million. 3 years later, we sold the company for $3.4 billion with a B in 1995, which was more of a rarity than it is today. And then even moreover, then went up to the Silicon Valley as a lawyer, rebranded myself as a technology guru, raised hundreds of millions of dollars in the wireless proxy server space, and ended up CEO of the world's first smartphone with Windows and Samsung. We had the PCE phone in 1999, which was defined as a gadget or convergence device. It wasn't really defined as a smartphone in 1999. But building and learning those lessons, I then became a venture capitalist and angel investor, and I met Lee Steinberg. So that journey of keeping my options open, I always say my relationship with money always helped me, because as an entrepreneur, I just wanted to make as much money as I could to help as many people as I can and have as much fun as I can. And so I always, no matter what position I was in, where I was always looking to see how I could make more money. I'd have been a horrible professional athlete, because I definitely would not have, like my favorite player, Tony Gwynn, stayed with the San Diego Padres, for 20 some years. I'd have been flipping teams. Whoever paid me the most, that's where I would go. But the advantage of that is you're always looking. You're not set. My siblings were very well trained, summa cum laude from the Ivy Leagues. And, I find a lot of my friends have put themselves into a certain pocket and they stay there. If you're after money, there's always bigger money and bigger opportunity. And so that's how I ended up at Lee Steinberg. The other journey was still in the same respect interesting, because I met Warren Moon, who's the Hall of Fame quarterback, when I was representing athletes, celebrities, entertainers with Lee. And Warren and I hit it off. Lee was having some personal issues, and Warren encouraged me to start a company with him. So I started a company 11 years ago called Sports One Marketing. And then about 4 years ago, Super Bowl 4 years ago, so almost exactly 4 years ago, I was helping a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, who's an ultimate entrepreneur. I was helping him with his sports agency. So he didn't know anything about sports agencies. His brother AJ wanted to start one. So I was helping them figure out that game. And I was smart enough to ask for help. I said, you know what? You seem to really know this digital space. You know the entrepreneur space. Could you help me build my brand separate from a sports agent, guru, legend, icon, whatever they call you as you get old? Basically, it has been in sports. That's what I call myself. But I knew I had to re-engineer myself as an entrepreneur. And so Gary put faith behind what I was doing and taught me, as I taught him sports agency business, he taught me the digital marketing game, how to utilize my traditional marketing expertise in the digital space to build my own brand. So I wrote books, I speak around the world, I have a huge coaching business. I have one of the top podcasts like this one. I have new TV shows. Elevator Pitch is in its 6th season. I was a key host and judge and executive producer. Now I'm just executive producer because I created my own show that launched last Friday and will launch tomorrow as well on Amazon, but it's on Bloomberg Television. It's called 2-Minute Drill, and it's a pitch competition show. No facade of funding like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or Elevator Pitch. It's simply mano a mano, the best pitch, $50,000 of cash and prizes every episode. And we get judges from the LinkedIn founder to the Uber founder to Verb to Shift Pixie to Powerhouse, all the great minds of entrepreneurship to give great advice that actually can be used in real life. And that kind of takes me up to today. And like I said, my relationship to money, that sign behind me says money doesn't buy happiness. It will allow you to shop. I just decided I'd shop for the right things instead of things I don't need.
Really gives you the time to do what you want to do, right? I mean, isn't that what, I mean, I've heard it put that way before. I think that the other interesting part of this is you've had lots and lots of success, but in reading your bio, there were times when you hit rock bottom. How did you pull yourself out of that? And as a serial entrepreneur myself, I can tell you I've been there. I've had some success. I've had some pretty epic failures as well. How do you pull yourself out of those low points?
Yeah, it's really interesting because what I found out the first time I hit rock bottom has a basement. And I somehow found that basement. That's how low I got. I lost over $100 million because of ego. And I think the greatest lesson that I learned is about the ego and creating my own core values and daily practices to enjoy. And that's a key word. I was going to enjoy whatever it was from then on out. I was going to attach my emotions to an outcome. I'd lived my life too long saying, oh, when I graduate high school, I'll be happy. When I graduate college, I'll be happy. When I get straight A's, I'll be happy. When I graduate law school, when I get a job, it was when I'm a millionaire, when I get my 10 million, when I get my 100 million. You know what? Happiness got farther and farther away the more I complicated my emotions to an outcome. And so what I realized was I was going to enjoy the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of my own potential, my own truth. I was going to pursue myself inwards, knowing that I can't give what I don't have and I can't find outside of me what I don't have inside of me. And so hitting rock bottom to me was one of the greatest things that happened because it forced me to be humble and to look within myself, number one, and two, to ask for help. You know, I nicknamed myself Midas, money. I had all the nicknames in the world as a multimillionaire in my 20s. And what I realized was I had no power other than to use my power to clear the connection to the greatest source of power. That I wasn't any type of hero or icon for climbing those mountains in front of me. I was a hero if I could allow and give my life away with the person who created those mountains. And I changed my philosophy from one of money buys happiness to, money allows me to shop and I'm going to shop for the right things. I'm not going to be a victim anymore. Things aren't going to happen to me. I'm not going to have things for me. I'm not going to buy things I don't need to impress people I don't like. I'm going to allow my life to give it away to other people. Now, I'm still a capitalist. I wrote a book called Compassionate Capitalism. I'm a capitalist. I want as much as I can, but only so I can give it away through me. Not to me or for me, but through me.
That's great advice. And follow up to that is, I know you've got an executive or a business coaching practice as well. how extremely wealthy people are some of the most unhappy people I've ever had in some cases, displeasure of dealing with. Not always, but occasionally. And one instance in particular I can recall was very senior guy, had been politically active, head of a very large law firm. He was well into his 60s when I got to know him, and we were business partners. And this guy was only motivated by the next deal, the next deal, the next deal. He didn't seem to take any joy out of what he was doing. And it seems like you've come to that understanding of what really makes you tick. How do you get that to be conveyed to other people to where they get it in your coaching practice?
Yeah, you know, it all started for 20 years. I've been giving free trainings. And that's what generated this interest for me to be I didn't even know what a coach was, but through my free trainings, people started asking me. And the way that I did was first to teach people about values. And there was 4 key values that I teach that help people change or re-engineer their quantum nature, the way they are, especially if they're older. And one was just simple gratitude. You know, I've changed more lives by telling people to say thank you before they go to bed and when they wake up. I still get more emails about 2 things that I learned before I was 3 years old. One is people tell me I changed their life because I reminded them how important gratitude was, and also that I taught them to ask for help, which is really funny, right? Because when you're little, your mom will always say thank you, or they'll say, make sure you ask. So I'm pretty much paid millions of dollars to tell people, say thank you, make sure you ask. If you haven't got anything out of it, there's your takeaway. But moreover, gratitude gives you perspective. It takes pain from a position of a stop sign to a position of a turn signal. It's an indicator that you have something to learn. Gratitude allows you to find the light, the love, and the lessons, even in the most difficult, challenging circumstances. It's not just seeing the glass as half full. It's actually seeking the superpowers, the lessons in what we're doing. And life is only about lessons. That's where the philosophy of enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential, they come through lessons. And then the second one was forgiveness, which in 2020, I spent an enormous amount of time studying forgiveness because it always gave peace. You know, and peace seemed like something that we needed in 2020. But it also, to me now, gives certainty. The more that I can forgive the forgivable, the more certain I am about the future. And forgiveness is such a powerful thing. And then the third one was accountability. You'll find that your friend, the lawyer, probably lives in blame, shame, and justification. Anyone that's living deal for deal, he's never accountable. And what I learned was, number one, what did I do to attract all of this to myself, and what am I supposed to learn from it? And then we've already talked about the inspiration or effective communication, that instead of thinking, you know, I'm motivated, I'm inspired to help other people, I start out by saying, what am I connected to? What is it that's walking with me? What is it that's inside of me so that it can come through me for other people? It's a whole different paradigm shift that allows me to be abundant, not to be scarce, not to live with fear. And then I start teaching daily practices to help people effectuate those 4 values. And sooner or later, people make more money, they help more people, and they're having more fun, and they're happier than they've ever been.
At Startup Junkie, obviously, we exist to empower entrepreneurs, and this past year was an obvious challenge because it limited us in our ability to have our events, limited our ability to have, you know, entrepreneurs coming through our door for consulting meetings. You know, we had to pivot to virtual programming, digital content. You know, I saw early on as we pivoted that direction, going virtual allowed us to, I guess, to impact more people. Our resources reached further than they had before. And I know you, with your free Friday, trainings and sessions, I know you had to pivot those virtual too. I'd be interested to know, you know, turning that virtual and expanding that out, if you saw a similar impact.
It was amazing, right? Like, it is, to me, the epitome of what happened. First of all, one of the greatest lessons of 2020 is I don't know what I don't know. When you're out there as a huge hypocrite like me, talking about humility and then realizing how much money you've wasted and how much ego you still are challenged with, it really came to the forefront with my Friday trainings. I've been training for free for 20 years. Every Friday, people come from my community, they'll fly in, and literally in my office, or sometimes in rented space, I provide lunch for free. I give my books at these things, and I've done it for years, not months. This is something I've done for 2 decades. So COVID hits, and I, get on Zoom, which, I just have to tell you, like the enlightened investor I am, I was a huge Zoom opponent. I thought it sucked. I didn't think you could do anything virtually. And I would tell all my friends, when like, let's do Zoom. I'm like, I can't multitask when I'm on Zoom. I do not want you to see what I'm doing while I'm talking to you, because you will lose respect for me. I cannot do this. This is a waste. You can't see me. So I decided to do these Zoom webinars, and thousands of people show up. Thousands of people show up week one, and over 20,000 people register. The biggest surprise to me, beyond the 20,000 people or more that register every Friday for these free trainings. Now, the irony is, why it's the epitome is, I don't have to buy anyone lunch. So I'm teasing my team going, man, we got over 20,000 people a week, and I don't have to spend a penny other than my Zoom subscription. This Zoom thing's great. I should have invested it like they told me years ago. This is a great thing. Anyway, for me, the most amazing thing is I made it into my Monday podcast, because I do a podcast every day. We have, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, millionaires, billionaires, the biggest names that I've been blessed to be around, and they're, just gracious enough to come on. But surprisingly, you have Cameron Diaz and Dan Aykroyd and Ray Lewis and Brett Favre, and these are the type of names, as you know, are on my podcast. The number one downloaded podcast that I have is every Monday, these free trainings. People want to learn. They can find those people on TV. They can find them, other places, but they can't get the empowerment, the inspiration. Motivation will get you up, get you back up, but inspiration will get you there. And what I like about you, Caleb and Jeff, is that you get that part, right? It's one thing to be a shiny object, to motivate and, hold out there for people to aspire to, but to inspire someone to do something every day, because that's what it takes, as as an entrepreneur. This is a 7-day-a-week a commitment. That's what it takes. And that's what I have learned the most from this COVID situation and pivoting during, especially with my training.
And it forces you to think differently as well. I mean, if you think about it, we're a relatively small operation in central U.S., but we touch 1,000 entrepreneurs a year, typically through our mentoring, counseling, training, the one-on-one stuff where they come into the office. We put on something like 250 events. Within the course of 2 weeks, Caleb and team took all of that live stuff and turned it into digital. And at first, we weren't really sure, is anybody going to show up? And now I can, perfect case in point is this podcast. I guarantee you, we never would have had you on the podcast in 2019 or even reached out to you, because it was largely live. We'd have a small studio audience. We wouldn't think about reaching out to prominent people to be on outside our sphere of influence in the central U.S. and Arkansas. And so it forced us all to think differently. I mean, I think this kind of adversity is good in that way, in some respects.
I think it's great. And I mean, talk about the other side of it for me is that it raises my awareness. And, I do have a 5-20 rule. I have 5-minute phone calls, 20 minutes meetings and interviews. Sometimes for great people like you, extended to 30. But, how nice is it that I used to travel, because I, have been on big shows, the big stations, and I would fly into New York once a month to do the Fox business side, the sports business segment for them. They pay a ton of money to have me fly in, but forget the money. What about my time? Now it's just, I can accommodate. I talk about productivity. I've always been on the edge of productivity, how much value I can provide. But what has really expanded is the accessibility that you're talking about, Jeff. Mm-hmm. I am so much more accessible because I can walk off the beach, come in here in my t-shirt, and people accept the fact that I'm in a t-shirt. My dog may be barking in the background, put up a cool green screen that I can refer to about Money Doesn't Buy Happiness, and walk off here in 30 minutes with no planes, trains, automobiles, no expense at all. And we hit probably 10 times as many people in both of our audiences.
The thing that's interesting about that as well is I wonder, as it relates to business travel, if that paradigm ever goes back. Because I think, as I think about it in the consulting business and what we've done, I couldn't possibly rationalize necessarily getting on a plane in 2022 and going to a conference or going to a business meeting with somebody that I could have a perfectly fine video conversation with. There'll still be the need for personal contact and whatnot. But I think it's changed forever in some respects. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I fly 200 days a year. I'm actually, my biggest joke of 2020 was American Way featured me in their magazine, which was a bucket list item for me, right? To be, you guys have, if you've traveled, you know that
Sure,
magazine, right? So I'm
absolutely.
thinking someday I want to see Dave Meltzer in there. Well, they offered it to me before COVID, and they're like, "What month? We'd like to see you in December because you get Thanksgiving to New Year's. It's the most traveled." So I'm like, "Yeah, give me December. That'd be great." So there's so few people that travel. They gave me December and January in the magazine. But I will tell you this, it doesn't matter unless it's a big convention, like a speaking engagement or a sporting event, which I go to a lot. I don't see a reason to travel because I know how to use this medium so well, and I out of respect for the other person and value for the other person, unless they want to give Dave Meltzer a hug, I can't see a reason why we can't conduct business or an interview or some consulting over Zoom or other platforms. Doesn't make any sense to me. I think my travel will be a combination of fun, some sort of experiential thing with business meetings when I'm in town. But very, very, very rarely, unless the dollars are high, will I fly across country or the world for some sort of face-to-face meeting.
I think there'll probably have to be a baseball game going on for me to want to fly to a new city. And this summer,
Who's your baseball team?
Atlanta Braves.
There you
And they're
go.
hosting the MLB All-Star game this summer, so there better be fans in the seats.
I will be there, and I'm a goodwill ambassador to Curacao, where Ozzy Albies is from, and he's a friend of mine as well. And I think he's a big catalyst for the Braves. In fact, you might see the Braves and the Padres in the national championship game this year.
I'd love to see it. Tell him I said, hey, if you would, next time you see him.
uh,
David, I think it was Paul Graham that had a quote that went something like, it's hard to, do really well at something that you're not thinking about in the shower. Some people contemplate, think over these things. That's the bug in your ear. You have so many irons in the fire. You're, have all these different projects going on. What is it that you think about?
For me, I'm very systematic. So number one, I take inventory of my values first every day. Personal values, experiential values, giving values, and receiving values. Then I move down to who do I need to ask to help me? Because I know one thing out of this humility lesson I've learned over $100 million of dummy tax that I've paid. One thing I learned is the easiest way to get to where I want to be is find someone that's there and ask them for directions. I'm not trying to figure it out anymore. So once I know my values and know that I'm a hypocrite, meaning I can change my mind, not a problem, but I'm going to live with these values today. I'm going to find out who can help me best, internally or externally in my life. I'm then going to study, which is the mathematical equation to luck. Don't get scared, people, if you don't like school. Studying to me means I pay attention to and give intention to the coincidences that I want. Mathematical equation of luck. Attention plus intention, what you think, say, do, and believe, equals coincidence. So I study my calendar. I study it for the stuff I have planned, I don't have planned in my sleep. My tomorrow starts today. I start unwinding at 9 p.m. so I can wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow. So I kept that in my mind as well. But I study it with the lens of productivity, what we mentioned before. How much value can I provide to others? Accessibility, how accessible am I to others? And how am I accessing what I want? And of course, gratitude. I'm always seeking the light, the love, and the lessons. Fourth thing is do it now. I keep on top of everything because once you know your values, you can say to yourself, no matter what occurs, right? You know how to make God laugh, come up with a well-developed plan, and you'll get him cracking up. So you got to have this value set because when things happen, I ask myself, can I do it now? And if I can do it now, I get it done. And if not, it goes back into the calendar to study later on prioritizing by importance using Roosevelt's matrix of important versus urgency. The thing about do it now that's cool is 100% of the things you do now get done. And the difference between successful entrepreneurs and everybody else is they get shit done. So that helps me get stuff done. And then finally, lastly, practice ending fear. I'm a big ego guy. I had a huge ego myself, still have an ego, and I practice ending it. I call it the minutes and moments practice. You need to be a ferocious Buddha. Everyone's going to have the need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be separate, inferior, or superior, anxious, frustrated, worried, angry. All we see it all over this ego right now. Everybody has such fear. And I tell you this, why don't you just practice spending minutes and moments in fear instead of weeks, days, months, and years? Think about how much time, money, and emotion you've wasted just trying to be offended or having a need to be right, or even worse, just worrying about things that never happened. Imagine if you could aggregate all the time, emotion, money, and resources that you wasted on those three things. All three of us would be billionaires, I promise you. That's how much energy we wasted.
Now that's it. That's really, really sage advice. We tend to get consumed by our own emotions and trapped by things that likely won't happen. I mean, it's so true. You've had this full career and portfolio of really diverse activities, and it seems to me like you live in the moment, but you're also a planner. So what's the outlook? I mean, you don't strike me as somebody that ever just says, I'm done, I'm going to spend the rest of my time on the beach or playing golf. What's that journey look like for you going forward?
So that idea of pursuing your potential is encouraging. I know the number one common denominator between all those amazing people that I've surrounded myself with and have been in contact with is they have a desire that they must be what they can be. My biggest goal in life is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. I want to create a collective consciousness in the world with over 1/8 of the people on earth that I have empowered to be happy. Now people say, how the hell are you going to do that? 1,000 people at a time. So I'm looking for 1,000 people like Caleb and Jeff that I know in your lifetime will empower another 1,000 to empower 1,000. Simple math tells me if I can find 1,000 people like you two guys that I know can empower another 1,000 to empower 1,000, 1,000 times 1,000's 1,000,000, 1,000,000 times 1,000's 1,000,000,000. If we can create together 1 billion people on earth that aren't scarce, that allow themselves to receive so they can give, that take on these practices and values, imagine what the world would be like with the majority of consciousness being abundant and happy. Happy people don't attack other people. Happy people don't steal joy. Happy people usually don't get sick. And if they do, they heal quicker and they die happier. Happiness is an amazing thing, and yet we don't talk about it, train it, or teach it enough. And so what's in the horizon for me is to continue to do everything I can and enjoy it consistently and persistently, pursuing my potential to empower as many people as I can through podcasts, TV shows, movies, TV, all the things that I get to do, the coaching, the free trainings, my books that I write. Who knows what else will be out there in the future, the virtual hologram of Dave Meltzer, that'll work for me too. But whatever it is to teach the lessons of happiness, you'll find me there.
No, that's strong. And philosophically, we're often told about good leadership that the best leaders are the ones that take the most satisfaction from seeing the people they get the honor of working with do well. It's nothing about any credit that may convey to them. So that philosophy is strong. I think Adam Grant, who you probably know or have heard of, who wrote the book about give and take. I mean, you two are pretty closely aligned philosophically, I think. I mean, that's really strong.
Yeah, I elevate others to elevate yourself. You will feel no greater joy than seeing the success of others through the catalytic behavior of yourself. It's amazing how you feel. I get choked up just talking about it. I had a birthday yesterday, and to see the mentees and the comments of how many people you can impact by staying clear, balanced, and focused on what you want. And look, it comes down to a simple quote as we finish up here, right? We talked about the 2 things I learned before I was 3, gratitude and asking, but kindness. I look at things very simply. Be kind to your future self. Do good deeds. I can't tell you how my life has changed when I look upon, I was walking on the boardwalk to get to the interview back to the beach house, and a girl had crashed her bike and people were walking by, right? And as much as I wanted to be on time, I made the decision to stop and help and be kind and do a good deed. Called an ambulance, waited there. And yeah, I had to run back here, so maybe I look a little sweaty or don't sound exactly right, but it was well worth it. And that's what I want people to do. Just be kind to your future self. Do the good deeds. Help other people. You'll be happy.
Well, that's
Caleb,
great, David.
land the
Yeah,
plane, Caleb.
yeah, absolutely. We appreciate your time and happy belated birthday, by the way. But as we conclude, I just wanted to get from you, where can people find out more about what you're doing? 2-minute drill, your Friday trainings. Where can people find out more information?
I'm probably one of the few people that still answer my own emails. So david@dmeltzer.com. Yes, I'm on every platform at David Meltzer, DAVIDMELTZER. But you could try out for my TV show. There's $50,000 of cash and prizes. You can get free training. I'll sign my book and send it to you and pay for shipping. I don't care. You just reach out to me, david@dmeltzer.com. I do have a text community, 949-298-2905. I answer everything myself. So if you want to test me, be careful. I send some pretty funny stuff back.
Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a wonderful getting to know you a little bit and understanding your journey. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
You guys have me back anytime. Thank you for being one of my 1000s. I know you're doing great work out there. Keep elevating other people and be kind. Thank you.
Will do. Thanks, David.
Thanks, David. Bye.
Take care, guys. Thank you.